right, let's jump right in, shall we? Today, we're diving deep into the world of quantum computing.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing stuff.
It really is. And our source material for this deep dive is an article called "What are the Implications of Quantum Computing on Modern Technology?" It's pretty dense, but really gets into the nitty-gritty of what quantum computing is, why everyone's so excited about it, and what challenges are still ahead.
It's one of those topics that can easily get lost in the hype.
Totally. So our mission today is to cut through that noise and give you a clear understanding of what quantum computing actually means for you, me, and, well, the future of basically everything.
No small task.
Definitely not. But I think we can handle it. So to kick things off, let's start with the basics. What exactly is quantum computing? How is it different from, the computers we use every day?
Well, the computers we're all familiar with use bits, right? Which are essentially tiny switches that can be either on or off, representing 1 or 0. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But quantum computers are a whole different ballgame. They use qubits. And qubits, well, they operate on the principles of quantum mechanics, specifically superposition and entanglement.
Okay, those are some big words. Can you break those down for us?
Sure. So superposition basically means a qubit can be in multiple states at the same time. Like imagine a coin that can be heads, tails, or both simultaneously.
Whoa, that's kind of trippy.
It is. And then there's entanglement, which is even weirder. When two qubits are entangled, their fates are linked. You measure one and you instantly know the state of the other, even if they're miles apart.
So it's like they're communicating faster than the speed of light or something.
It's almost like that. It's a very strange phenomenon, but incredibly powerful. This means that quantum computers can explore many possibilities at the same time, not just one at a time like our regular computers.
So that's where this crazy processing power comes from, right?
Exactly. A few hundred entangled qubits could theoretically outperform even the most powerful supercomputers we have today, at least for certain tasks.
Okay, so I'm starting to grasp the basics here.
Good.
But let's get into the real world stuff. What are some concrete ways quantum computing could change things? The article mentions applications in medicine, finance, logistics.
Oh, there are so many possibilities. Drug discovery is a big one. Imagine being able to simulate the behavior of molecules at an atomic level.
So we could actually see how drugs interact with the body before even creating them.
Precisely. It could revolutionize how we design new medicines, especially for diseases that are currently very difficult to treat.
That's incredible. What about finance? How could quantum computing shake things up there?
Think about the complexity of financial markets. There are so many variables, so much data to analyze. Quantum computers could help develop incredibly sophisticated algorithms for things like risk management and portfolio optimization.
So, in theory, it could lead to more stable markets and better investment decisions.
Potentially, yes. And in logistics, quantum algorithms could optimize things like delivery routes and supply chains, considering traffic, weather, you name it.
So faster deliveries, lower costs, maybe even a greener supply chain. This all sounds unbelievably promising. But I'm guessing there are some major roadblocks too.
Oh, absolutely. It's not all sunshine and roses. We're still very much in the early stages here.
Let's talk about those challenges. What are some of the hurdles holding back this so-called quantum revolution?
Well, one of the biggest is actually building these quantum computers. They're incredibly complex and delicate. The qubits themselves are super fragile and prone to errors.
Errors? Like what kind of errors?
Well, even the slightest disturbance, like a tiny change in temperature or vibration, can throw them off. Imagine trying to build a house of cards in a windstorm. It's that delicate.
So basically, we need to figure out how to make them a lot more stable.
Exactly. Researchers are working on error correction techniques to make them more robust, but it's still a major hurdle. And then there's the issue of accessibility.
Right, like who actually gets to use these things?
Right now, quantum computers are incredibly expensive to build and maintain. Only a handful of research institutions and big companies have access to them.
So even if we solve the technical challenges, there's the issue of making them widely available.
Exactly. We're talking about a technology with the potential to transform everything, but right now it's kind of like a super exclusive club, and that's a problem.
It definitely raises some important questions about equity and access. But before we dive deeper into those societal implications, let's go back to the technology itself. So we've talked about the potential and some of the hurdles of quantum computing. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I'd love to take a step back. Where did this whole idea of quantum computing even come from?
It's a pretty wild story, actually. It goes back decades, really. Involves a lot of brilliant minds coming together from physics, computer science, all sorts of fields.
So it wasn't just one aha moment.
No, definitely not. It was more like a slow burn. You see, even as classical computers were getting more powerful, scientists started hitting these walls. Like, there were certain problems, really complex ones, that even the best computers just couldn't handle.
Like what kinds of problems?
Well, imagine trying to model the behavior of every single atom in a molecule. That's a lot of interactions, a mind-boggling amount of data. Classical computers just choked.
So even with all our technological advances, there were still limits.
Exactly. And that's where quantum mechanics entered the picture. It basically offered a whole new way of understanding the universe at its most fundamental level. And key to that understanding, well, you guessed it, those concepts of superposition and entanglement.
Right, right. We talked about those in a general sense, but I'm ready to get my mind really blown. Can you explain how those actually work?
All right, let's try. Imagine a single atom, right? In the quantum world, that atom doesn't have to exist in just one state. It can be in multiple states simultaneously. That's superposition in action.
So it's like that coin we talked about earlier, spinning in the air, both heads, any tails at the same time.
Exactly, until we measure it, and then it collapses into one state or the other. Now, take two of those atoms and entangle them. Suddenly, their fates are linked. If you measure one, you instantly know the state of the other, even if they're across the universe from each other.
Okay, that is just bonkers. So instead of processing information bit by bit, these quantum computers are somehow tapping into this weirdness, this entanglement to do what? Explore all possibilities at once.
That's the idea. It's like having a massive parallel processing system built into the very fabric of reality itself.
Mind officially blown. So how did we go from these abstract quantum principles to actual physical quantum computers? Like, how did someone actually build one of these things?
It was a long and winding road, lots of trial and error, dead ends, you name it. But there were some key milestones along the way. One early type of quantum computer used trapped ions.
Trapped ions. Like, what does that even mean?
So imagine literally trapping individual atoms in a magnetic field. Those trapped ions acted as the qubits.
Wow. We're talking about manipulating stuff at the atomic level here. That's insane.
It is. But trapped ions have their limitations. Another approach uses superconducting circuits, and these operate at some CR/ZY low temperatures.
Superconducting circuits. That rings a bell from high school physics. But refresh my memory.
Sure. Picture a material that can conduct electricity with zero resistance. Absolutely none. It's like a superhighway for electrons. These superconducting circuits can be used to create and control qubits, but to work, they need to be cooled to almost absolute zero.
So we're talking colder than outer space here.
You got it.
Yeah.
Not exactly something you can build in your basement. These machines are feats of engineering, incredibly complex, and even then, we're still in the very early stages. Think of it like the very first computers, those massive room-sized machines. That's kind of where we are with quantum computers right now. Still finicky, prone to those errors we talked about, and super expensive.
So a long way to go, but exciting progress so far.
Oh, absolutely. And the pace of innovation is just accelerating. Every day, there are new discoveries. We're seeing improvements in qubit stability, error correction techniques, even the development of whole new types of quantum computers based on things like topological materials.
Topological materials. Okay, you're going to have to explain that one.
So topological materials are these weird materials that can conduct electricity, but only along their edges or surfaces. And they're incredibly stable, very resistant to outside interference, which makes them super interesting for building more robust quantum computers.
So maybe, just maybe, these topological materials hold the key to unlocking that stable quantum future we've been talking about.
It's certainly possible, and it's not just the hardware that's advancing. We're also seeing breakthroughs in quantum algorithms. That's the software that runs on these machines, basically. And some of these new algorithms are designed to take advantage of quantum weirdness to solve problems that would take classical computers, well, basically forever.
It's like a whole new era of computation is dawning. But who are the people behind all of this? Who are the pioneers pushing the boundaries of what's possible?
It's a global effort, really. Brilliant minds working in universities, research labs all over the world. People like John Preskill, who coined the term quantum supremacy, or Umesh Vazirani, who's made groundbreaking contributions to quantum algorithms. And of course, giants like David Deutsch, who really laid the theoretical foundations for this whole field.
It's just incredible to think that these once theoretical ideas are becoming a reality in our lifetime. But with all this progress, all this potential, there's a flip side too, right? The ethical considerations, the potential risks. As these quantum computers become more powerful, how do we make sure they're used for good?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's something we need to be thinking about very carefully. One concern, for example, is the impact on cybersecurity.
Right. I've heard some experts worry that quantum computers could be used to break the encryption that protects our online data.
That's a real possibility. A lot of our digital security systems rely on algorithms that are very difficult for classical computers to crack. But for a sufficiently powerful quantum computer, it might be child's play.
So it's kind of a race against time then to develop new forms of security that can withstand these quantum attacks.
Exactly. It's a constant game of cat and mouse. But it's not just about cybersecurity. There are broader societal questions, too. Who gets access to this technology? How do we ensure it benefits everyone, not just a select few?
It sounds like we're walking a very fine line here, balancing the incredible potential of quantum computing with the need to develop it responsibly.
Absolutely. It's going to require a lot of careful thought, a lot of open and honest dialogue. We need to make sure we're steering this technology in a direction that benefits all of humanity.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential, the challenges, even the history of quantum computing. But now, I want to look ahead. What's next for this game-changing technology? What kind of future are we looking at?
Well, one of the biggest milestones everyone's looking towards is achieving quantum advantage.
Quantum advantage. Right. We've heard that term thrown around a lot. But what does it actually mean?
Basically, it's the point where a quantum computer can solve a practical problem, a real-world problem, significantly faster or better than any classical computer could.
So it's not just about theoretical potential anymore. It's about proving that these quantum computers can actually deliver on their promise.
Exactly. It would be a huge turning point for the field.
So where do you think we might see this quantum advantage first? What kinds of problems are ripe for a quantum solution?
Materials science is one area that's really exciting. Imagine being able to design brand new materials, atom by atom, with properties we've never seen before.
So stronger, lighter materials, more efficient solar cells, things like that.
Exactly. Quantum computers could help us understand and manipulate materials at a level of detail that's just not possible with classical computers.
That's mind-blowing. And I know we've touched on drug development before, but it sounds like that's another area where quantum advantage could really shine.
Absolutely. Think about protein folding. It's a super complex process, but it's crucial for understanding diseases and developing new drugs. Quantum simulations could unlock a whole new level of understanding in that area.
So potentially treatments for diseases that have been impossible to cure up until now.
It's certainly a possibility. And there are other areas too. Artificial intelligence, machine learning. These fields rely on crunching massive amounts of data, and quantum algorithms could make that process exponentially faster and more efficient.
It sounds like we could be on the verge of an AI revolution powered by quantum computing.
Yeah.
It's all incredibly exciting, but I also have to ask, what's the timeline here? How long until we start seeing these breakthroughs in the real world?
Well, it's hard to predict the future, of course, but many experts believe we could see quantum advantage for certain specific tasks within the next few years. 5 years, maybe 10.
So not tomorrow, but also not some distant sci-fi future.
Right. But of course, we still have those challenges to overcome. The stability of the qubits, those pesky errors, that's still a major focus of research.
Right, right. We talked about those before. Are there any promising solutions on the horizon? Any new approaches that give you hope?
There are a few things that look really interesting. Topological qubits, for example, those are inherently more stable, less prone to errors. And then there's the idea of hybrid systems, combining the best of classical and quantum computing.
So instead of trying to replace all our existing computers, it's more about finding ways to integrate quantum computing into the systems we already have.
Exactly. It's about figuring out the best tool for the job. Sometimes that'll be a classical computer, sometimes a quantum computer, sometimes a combination of both.
It's like having a whole new set of tools in our toolbox. But as we develop these powerful new tools, we have to think about the implications, right? The societal impact of all this. How will quantum computing change the way we live, the way we work, the way we interact with the world?
It's a huge question. And it's not just about the technology itself, but about how we choose to use it. We need to make sure it benefits everyone, not just a select few.
What kind of changes do you think we might see?
Well, for one thing, there will be whole new industries, new jobs that we can't even imagine yet. Quantum programmers, quantum engineers, all sorts of specialized roles.
So it's not just about the scientific breakthroughs, it's about the economic and social transformations that come along with them.
Exactly. But there were also risks, of course, job displacement, for example. As quantum computers become more capable, they could potentially automate tasks that are currently done by humans. We need to be prepared for that, to make sure people have the skills they need to thrive in this new landscape.
It sounds like we need to start having these conversations now to make sure we're steering this technology in a direction that benefits everyone.
Absolutely. It's not just about bits and qubits, it's about people. It's about making sure this technology is used to create a more equitable, more just, and more sustainable future for all.
Wow, that's a powerful message. It's clear that quantum computing is more than just a technological revolution. It's a chance to rethink how we approach some of the biggest challenges facing humanity. It's been an incredible journey exploring this topic with you. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise.
It's been my pleasure. And to everyone listening, remember, this is just the beginning. The quantum future is still being written, and it's up to all of us to shape it.